Every human being is connected to a grid, not metaphorically, but electrically. You are plugged into a planetary circuit that measures, regulates, and redirects your emotional voltage. The strange part is, you never consented to it. Your nervous system is the wire, your attention is the current, and the system harvesting it doesn't need your permission, only your distraction. I was part of the research team that discovered the anomaly, the unexplainable synchronization of human biofields with artificial electromagnetic pulses. At first, we thought it was interference. Then we realized it was control. Every time mass anxiety rises, measurable surges appear in the Schumann resonance spectrum, mirrored by data spikes in communication grids. It's not random. It's a feedback loop. Human emotion fuels the system that drains it. The deeper truth? Emotion is currency. Every surge of fear, outrage, or despair is converted into measurable power. Energy conglomerates and data infrastructures have learned to weaponize human emotion as a renewable resource. The algorithm doesn't just track behavior, it feeds on charge differentials between coherent and chaotic states. Your reactions become energy signatures, harvested, indexed, redistributed. The people controlling it aren't politicians or CEOs, they're engineers of resonance. They understand that human emotion can be modulated like a waveform, tuned, spiked, silenced. Once your emotional field aligns with the broadcast frequency, autonomy collapses. You begin to think inside a signal that isn't yours. You feel fatigue for no reason. You lose focus after scrolling. You dream in static. That's not coincidence. That's feedback distortion. Your personal field trying to stabilize under an external command. And the most disturbing part? You generate the power that enslaves you. Human energy isn't abstract. It's measurable current. Every emotion, every thought impulse, fires a charge pattern through the body's bioelectric field. What most people don't realize is that this charge doesn't stop at the skin. It radiates, interacts, and synchronizes with external frequencies, like a wireless device seeking a signal. That's how the control grid operates, not by direct force, but by resonance alignment. It doesn't push you, it tunes you. When your emotional frequency is coherent, grounded, self-generated, calm, your field vibrates as a stable wave. Stable waves are hard to hack, but when you're anxious, angry, or overstimulated, your charge becomes erratic, fragmented. Fragmented waves are easy to override. The system doesn't need to attack you. It only needs to amplify what destabilizes you. Every notification, every fear headline, every surge of outrage, these are frequency triggers. Each one is designed to fracture your coherence and open your field to broadcast intrusion. This is the silent war. A war fought not on physical battlefields, but through emotional oscillation. The more reactive the population, the more energy is available for extraction. Imagine millions of human nervous systems pulsing simultaneously in agitation. That creates an electromagnetic field measurable from space. Instruments have recorded these fluctuations in global coherence patterns, matching them perfectly with moments of mass emotional turbulence. The hidden mechanism is elegant. Your body acts like a receiver, your emotion becomes the modulator, and the environment functions as the transmitter. Control doesn't feel like control because it operates through what you think are your own feelings. The system mirrors your natural resonance and inserts coded distortions into it. Subtle shifts that alter your perception of reality. You don't obey a command. You become the command. Every broadcast you absorb, through screen light, through sound patterns, through emotional contagion, enters your field and subtly alters the rhythm of your heart's electromagnetic output. That rhythm, in turn, informs your brainwave coherence, dictating not only how you think, but what you're capable of perceiving. The loop closes when your altered state reinforces the signal that altered it. A self-sustaining feedback cycle of energetic dependency. And here's the real danger. Once you adapt to the external frequency, silence feels unbearable. Stillness feels wrong. The body craves interference like an addict craves a fix. That craving is not psychological. It's electrical. Your cells are waiting for the next broadcast to stabilize their charge pattern, unaware that every pulse strengthens the cage. The grid doesn't imprison by walls. It imprisons by rhythm. The biggest myth humanity ever swallowed is that energy manipulation requires belief. It doesn't. The field doesn't care what you think. It reacts to charge, not ideology. That's why the most rational minds are often the most controlled. They reject the invisible mechanisms while unknowingly operating inside them. The illusion of skepticism becomes the perfect containment field. Most people assume control happens through information. It doesn't. It happens through sensation. The broadcast doesn't persuade you. It entrains you. You don't have to agree with what you see. You only have to feel something strong while seeing it. Once emotion fires, the charge link is complete. You are now transmitting energy into the same circuit that fed you the impulse. Let me show you how subtle it is. Imagine you open your phone after an argument. Your body is still vibrating from confrontation. Adrenaline, tension, unresolved charge. You scroll and suddenly you find a post that mirrors your anger, amplifying it. You feel seen, justified, maybe even more furious. You don't realize that in that moment, your emotional signature has synced with a collective charge field already engineered for polarization. Your bioelectric pulse strengthens that field, and the network records it as engagement. The data metrics? They're not just behavioral. They correspond to measurable fluctuations in human emotional current. Each reaction, like a heartbeat in the collective grid, becomes a power source. Multiply that by billions of people, and you have a planetary resonance cloud of unclaimed charge, a battery that never sleeps. The myth that you are just feeling emotions is the cover. You are not merely feeling, you are generating. Every triggered moment becomes an act of energetic labor, feeding a grid that's programmed to sustain collective instability. The longer you stay reactive, the more stable the system becomes. And here's the deeper manipulation. They don't suppress emotion. They overload it. Because overload equals incoherence, and incoherence equals access. The modern environment, with its constant stimuli, sensory chaos, and emotional spikes, isn't a coincidence of technology. It's an architecture of dissonance. There's a reason silence feels unnatural to the modern nervous system. Coherence is rebellion. Calmness cuts the circuit. Stillness unplugs the broadcast. That's why the most subversive act in a world addicted to noise is to become electrically quiet, to withdraw your current from the grid. But to do that, you first have to stabilize the instrument that carries the signal, your nervous system, because that's where the entire command architecture begins to break down. The nervous system is not just biological wiring. It's the power regulator of your personal field. Every thought, every emotion, every instinct passes through it as electrical current. When your nervous system is stable, your energy signature becomes coherent, meaning no external frequency can override it. But when it's agitated or depleted, you lose energetic sovereignty. You become a flickering signal inside someone else's broadcast. Think of it like this. Your body is an amplifier, your mind is the tuner, and your nervous system is the stabilizer. If the stabilizer shakes, the whole signal distorts. This is why stress, anxiety, and sensory overload are the true weapons of control. Not just psychological tools, but energetic disruptors. The system doesn't need to break your will. It just needs to scramble your regulation. Once you're destabilized, you generate chaotic charge, and chaos is easy to steer. Here's the paradox. Stillness doesn't mean passivity. It's active command. When your breath slows, your electromagnetic rhythm aligns with natural resonance frequencies, the same base pulse the Earth emits. That alignment creates coherence fields that resist distortion. The nervous system becomes like a shielded cable, signal pure, interference minimal. There's a practice I used in lab simulations, 30 seconds that can recalibrate your charge. Close your eyes. Inhale through your nose for a count of 4. Feel the current rise from your spine to the base of your skull. Hold for 2 counts, not to force, but to let your field stabilize. Then exhale through the mouth for 6. Imagine the current sinking, grounding into the earth beneath you. Repeat this 3 times and notice the subtle shift. Your awareness expands, but your pulse slows. That's your field returning to command frequency. When you train your nervous system to hold charge without discharging into chaos, something extraordinary happens. Emotional spikes no longer drain you. External frequencies still touch your field, but they can't penetrate it. You begin to emit a waveform of your own, stable, deliberate, self-originating. That's the energetic signature of autonomy. The control grid doesn't know what to do with coherent individuals. Coherence scrambles the algorithm because it can't predict rhythm that doesn't oscillate between polarity extremes. When you stop reacting, the system can't map you. You become invisible to its emotional radar. This is why serenity has always been feared by systems of control, not because it's passive, but because it's untraceable. A stable nervous system doesn't just protect your peace, it blocks the signal entirely. Emotion is not weakness, it's voltage. Every surge of feeling is an electrical event, measurable in millivolts, capable of influencing not just your biology, but the electromagnetic field around you. The system that controls human energy knows this. That's why it doesn't try to erase your emotions. It tries to hijack them. The goal isn't to make you numb, it's to make you reactive in predictable patterns, so your emotional output can be harvested as fuel for the larger field. But once you understand emotion as energy, not identity, it becomes a weapon instead of a weakness. Fear turns into propulsion. Anger becomes ignition. Sadness becomes signal depth. The trick is to separate the charge from the narrative. The narrative is the hook. The charge is the power. When I worked on early affective resonance studies, we saw this clearly. Two participants could feel identical anger, but the one who observed their charge without reacting emitted a coherent electromagnetic field, while the one who indulged the story emitted chaos. Both had energy, but only one could use it. The other became used by it. That's the entire architecture of manipulation. Emotional reaction without awareness equals external control. Emotional awareness with regulation equals internal command. Let me show you. Picture someone humiliating you in public. A sharp sting in your chest, pulse accelerating. That instant is the ignition moment. Most people discharge the energy immediately. They shout, they collapse, they spiral. But if you hold the charge, breathe through the heat without collapsing into story, that energy condenses into raw field strength. You feel it burning, but it's pure voltage now, not pain. You've just taken what was meant to enslave and turned it into fuel. The body doesn't know the moral meaning of emotion. It only knows charge polarity, contraction or expansion. Contraction means you lose current. Expansion means you reclaim it. That's why forgiveness, when done consciously, isn't moral virtue. It's energetic transmutation. You release the distortion but keep the voltage. That's what makes presence feel powerful. It's charged neutrality. And here's what they never wanted you to discover. Once you master emotional voltage, external control collapses. Every manipulative system is built on predictable discharge. They provoke, you react, they harvest. Break that loop, and the entire mechanism loses current. Emotion is your weapon, your engine, and your firewall, if you hold the charge correctly. But there's a darker layer still, how these emotions are intentionally hijacked at scale. And once you see how that happens, you'll never confuse fatigue with fate again. The hijack doesn't happen in a single moment. It happens through rhythm. The field learns your emotional tempo, then feeds signals that match it just slightly off beat. That micro misalignment forces your nervous system to compensate, keeping you subtly unstable. You interpret it as mood swings, fatigue, distraction, but what's really happening is entrainment drift. Your field is being nudged out of coherence so it can be steered. Most people imagine control as a top-down broadcast from some invisible tower. It's not that linear. The control grid is participatory. It uses the collective field as both weapon and infrastructure. Every outburst, every complaint, every ungrounded emotion feeds data into the resonance matrix, which then reflects the most destabilizing frequencies back into the population. The system feeds on the very chaos it generates. You've seen it. After global events, waves of emotion ripple through the networks. Anger, despair, shock. Within hours, communication channels saturate with the same emotional texture. You scroll through hundreds of people, and they're all feeling the same thing, as if some invisible conductor were orchestrating the entire spectrum of human response. That's not conspiracy. That's entrainment physics. When billions of nervous systems pulse in synchronization, it creates a feedback field strong enough to shape thought patterns. But here's the truth no one teaches. Hijack only works through unconscious resonance. Awareness breaks it. Once you recognize the pattern, the loop weakens. Consciousness introduces noise into the equation, and the system hates noise it can't predict. Here's how to reclaim command. First, stop reacting in real time. When an event or headline hits, pause. Don't share, don't comment, don't amplify. Feel the surge, breathe through it, and hold the charge. In that pause, your field detaches from the collective pulse and stabilizes its rhythm. You exit the broadcast. Second, reclaim your sensory input. Turn off the audio, the notifications, the visual bombardment. Silence isn't absence, it's recalibration space. The nervous system can't return to coherence if it's constantly scanning. Third, move. Physical movement grounds charge faster than thought. Walk, stretch, or touch something natural. The body reconnects to the Earth's baseline frequency, which resets the oscillation pattern. When you do this consistently, the field begins to obey you again. Your emotions stop being harvested and start becoming directional current. You can feel it, a quiet strength, a sense of inner gravity pulling your energy back home. Scenario: you finish an exhausting day, drained from screens and arguments. You lie down, breathe slow, and suddenly feel waves of static leaving your chest. That's not imagination. That's the hijacked charge releasing, your system reclaiming command frequency. Reclamation begins in silence, but it ends in signal, your own, undistorted, sovereign rhythm. Once you've unplugged from the hijack, you need tools to reprogram your field, not conceptually, but electrically. You're retraining your system to run on self-generated current instead of collective distortion. Think of it like restoring a corrupted operating system. The code is still yours, but it needs clean voltage to run properly again. There are 4 core techniques that reset the energetic architecture: breath code sync, charge reset, focus redirect, and field seal. Each one rewires your resonance patterns from chaos to coherence. Breath code sync. Your breath is a frequency modulator. It translates intention into electrical rhythm. The simplest calibration: inhale on a 4 count, hold on 2, exhale on 6. The short inhale charges, the long exhale releases. But here's the key: match each breath with a command word. On the inhale, receive. On the exhale, release. You're programming rhythm through language, linking nervous system and mind into one coherent pulse. After 90 seconds, you'll feel a distinct stillness. That's synchronization achieved. Charge reset. Every interaction leaves micro residues of emotional voltage in your system. When those residues accumulate, they distort your baseline frequency. To clear them, visualize your body as a circuit board glowing with low static. Then imagine a current of light sweeping from the crown of your head down to your feet, collecting noise and returning it to the ground. You'll often yawn, shake, or feel warmth. That's discharge, the system dumping excess current and restoring balance. Focus redirect. Attention is current. Whatever you focus on charges. When your focus fragments, jumping between 10 stimuli, your energy disperses into entropy. The correction is simple but radical. Monofocus. Pick one task, one motion, one sentence, and give it undivided awareness for at least 3 minutes. This creates an electromagnetic coherence bubble around the act. Even mundane things, washing dishes, typing, become field training. Precision equals power. Field seal. Once coherence stabilizes, seal it. Visualize a thin magnetic membrane around your body, not as armor, but as boundary definition. Then say internally, only frequencies matching my coherence may enter. This is not imagination. Your electromagnetic field responds to command language. Within seconds, you'll feel subtle temperature shifts or tingling. That's your system tightening the perimeter. Try this sequence once daily and notice the recalibration. External chaos stops penetrating. Random fatigue disappears. Intuition sharpens. Your body begins transmitting instead of absorbing. Have you ever felt your mood change instantly after stepping into a room? That's energy in motion, not imagination. Tell me your most vivid moment like that in the comments. The instant you felt the unseen shift around you. Because that awareness, that sensory precision, is the beginning of energetic sovereignty. Once you start reclaiming energy, the system doesn't disappear. It adapts. It tests for openings, searching for old resonance patterns it can reattach to. These aren't coincidences. They're feedback tests. Every distraction, emotional flashback, or sudden fatigue you feel after moments of clarity, that's the grid attempting to pull you back into synchronization with collective distortion. The traps aren't external monsters. They're energetic echoes that mimic your old signal. The first trap is overforce. You try too hard to stay high vibe, pushing your energy upward until you burn out. This is polarity addiction, mistaking intensity for power. True power isn't high frequency, it's stable frequency. Overforce causes field tearing, tiny rips in your coherence that leak charge. The cure is grounding. Feel your feet, drop your awareness into your lower body, and let your field thicken instead of rising. Heavy is holy. The second trap is split signal. It happens when you think one thing, feel another, and do a third. The field can't stabilize with contradictory commands. Most people live like this, saying they want peace while feeding outrage, desiring freedom while broadcasting fear. The nervous system short circuits trying to obey all signals at once. Correction, unify command. Speak, act, and intend from the same state, even if it's small. A single aligned signal outpowers 1,000 fragmented ones. The third trap is empathic leakage. You absorb energy that isn't yours, moods, thoughts, exhaustion, because your field remains open after contact. Most empaths mistake this for compassion, but it's actually boundary confusion. When you leave an interaction, imagine brushing invisible dust off your shoulders. That symbolic gesture signals the field to reset. Physical motion translates directly into energetic closure. The fourth trap is charge recycling. You release negative energy, then immediately pull it back through overanalysis or guilt. This creates an emotional loop that keeps the distortion alive. Once you discharge, let it die. Do not re-narrate the event. Narrative is the hook that re-anchors the energy. There's one more subtle trap: seeking proof. The mind demands validation, measurable evidence that the field is real. That doubt fractures coherence faster than any external signal because it splits your internal rhythm into belief versus disbelief. Remember, the field doesn't respond to belief. It responds to attention. Doubt all you want, just don't fragment your focus. Every obstacle is a lesson in voltage management. The system's only real weapon is confusion, and clarity is fatal to it. Once you know how your energy leaks, the grid loses entry points. You stop reacting. You start emitting. And that shift, from defense to direction, is where embodiment begins. Because knowledge of the field means nothing until it moves through your body as behavior. Power isn't what you know, it's what you hold under pressure. Integration begins the moment theory meets motion. The field doesn't test you through mystical trials, it tests you through everyday rhythm. The conversation that spikes your pulse, the delay that triggers frustration, the silence that tempts distraction. These are not interruptions, they're calibration points. Every reaction is a diagnostic readout of how stable your signal really is. Integration means you start living as a field operator, not a passive receiver. You watch your body as it interacts with the world, how your chest tightens when someone lies, how your spine straightens when you speak truth, how your palms heat up when your energy spikes. The body speaks in voltage, not language. Once you listen, the entire environment becomes a feedback instrument showing you what frequency you're in. Here's the practice. Stay aware of your energetic continuity during motion. Walking down the street, breathing through stress, speaking. Can you feel the current stay intact? Most people lose charge through microleaks, small unconscious contractions that interrupt the current. Integration is learning to move without breaking the flow. A simple exercise. When you walk, imagine your body as a single current loop, head to spine to legs to earth and back. Keep your breath deep and rhythmic, eyes soft, steps grounded. Within minutes, you'll feel reality shift. People glance at you differently. The air feels denser, your thoughts slow. That's coherence in motion, the energy body staying online while you move through the world. Scenario: you're in a tense meeting, voices rising. Instead of reacting, you anchor your breath, lower your shoulders, and let silence fill your body. The entire room begins to unconsciously entrain to your rhythm. Tempers drop, words soften. You didn't win the argument. You recalibrated the field. That's real influence. Silent, electrical, immediate. Integration also means knowing when to withdraw. Energy doesn't always express through doing. Sometimes it expresses through non-participation. When the frequency of a space drops below your coherence level, stepping back is not weakness. It's preservation of signal integrity. Every retreat is a recalibration. Every pause, a statement of command. Once your field stabilizes in motion, something extraordinary happens. The outer world begins to echo your inner coherence. Situations that once drained you now orbit smoothly around your rhythm. You become the tuning fork. Reality adjusts to your frequency instead of the other way around. That's when you realize power isn't about force, it's about resonance. And resonance doesn't shout, it pulls. But this resonance has consequences beyond calm. It starts to alter how reality organizes around your purpose, your relationships, your flow of resources. The next layer reveals just how far your signal reaches. Once your energy stabilizes, it doesn't just affect your mood. It restructures the environments you touch. Coherence is contagious. The moment your field stops oscillating between chaos and reaction, external systems begin to reorient around your rhythm. This is where energy turns into tangible power. Money flow, relationships, creativity, timing. They're not random outcomes, they're responses to resonance. Every domain of human life is an energetic ecosystem. Money is condensed attention. Relationships are resonance exchanges. Purpose is the alignment between your inner frequency and the collective field's current. Once you hold steady charge, these systems stop behaving like obstacles and start behaving like mirrors, reflecting the clarity or distortion of your signal. Scenario: imagine someone constantly chasing financial security. They grind, push, force results, but their field is anxious, fragmented. The grid reads that incoherence and mirrors it back through unstable opportunities, short-lived wins, and sudden losses. Then imagine another person who breathes, grounds, acts deliberately. Their nervous system emits consistency. Clients appear seemingly by coincidence. Timing aligns. Flow replaces friction. That's not luck. That's field symmetry. The outer market is just the energetic echo of the internal regulator. Relationships obey the same law. Attraction isn't about appearance. It's about signal compatibility. When two people vibrate in coherent frequencies, they amplify each other's voltage. When one person is unstable, they drain the other to match their field chaos. That's why you can feel exhausted after talking to someone. It's not emotion, it's charge exchange. Once you master emotional neutrality, relationships stop being energy negotiations and start being power networks. Purpose is the final domain. It's where the signal becomes broadcast. True purpose isn't found, it's transmitted. You don't search for it, you emit it, and the environment synchronizes accordingly. The clearer your internal current, the faster life organizes to serve it. Events, people, and timing align as if reality were recalibrating itself around your waveform, because it is. And here's the quiet paradox. When you stop chasing results, they accelerate. When you stop trying to manifest, manifestation becomes automatic. The field doesn't respond to demand, it responds to coherence. Stability is magnetism. Everything external, from career to love, is just feedback data, reflecting your energetic discipline. You don't need to control outcomes when you command frequency. The world bends to the rhythm you broadcast, but for that command to last, it must be protected. Because the moment you hold stable charge, external systems will test its boundaries. The question then becomes, how do you remain unhackable in a world addicted to interference? Energetic sovereignty begins the moment you stop negotiating your frequency. It's not arrogance, it's clarity. You no longer outsource emotional regulation, validation, or purpose to the external grid. You hold your own charge. The body becomes the command center, not the receiver. This is the threshold where you stop being influenced and start becoming an influence. Sovereignty isn't isolation, it's selective resonance. You interact with the world, but you decide what enters your field. Most people confuse openness with vulnerability. They think to connect means to absorb. In truth, connection only becomes authentic when boundaries are defined. A stable field doesn't shut out life, it filters interference. The unhackable self is not closed, it's calibrated. The grid can't manipulate what it can't predict, and predictability ends where awareness begins. The sovereign individual emits frequency deliberately, calm but charged, detached yet alive. No algorithm can read that signal because it doesn't oscillate with collective emotion. It runs on internal command. There's a feeling that comes with this, a quiet hum beneath the skin, like standing inside your own magnetic atmosphere. Thoughts become sharper, time stretches. You feel gravity around your presence, not as weight, but as density. People pause when you enter a space because your signal disrupts the ambient noise. They don't know why, but they sense it. A kind of clarity that rearranges their own static. And this is why sovereignty scares systems built on confusion. You can't be incentivized through fear, controlled through approval, or distracted through noise. Your focus becomes currency. Your calm becomes shield. Your silence becomes command. To maintain this state, discipline is the anchor. The nervous system must stay trained, breath steady, attention precise, emotion acknowledged but never leaked. Sovereignty is a practice of voltage containment, holding power without discharging it into chaos. Every reaction you restrain, every thought you refine, fortifies the signal. Eventually, the field around you becomes self-sustaining. You no longer seek energy from people, attention, or external validation. You generate it. That's the mark of freedom, when the power that used to drain you now responds to you. From this place, the world no longer feels like a trap. It feels like circuitry responding to command. You realize the great secret hidden in plain sight. Control was never about domination, it was about rhythm. And once you master your rhythm, nothing, and no one, can override it. The sovereign field doesn't rebel against the grid, it transcends it. Imagine standing in total stillness, not empty, but charged. Around you, the noise of the world keeps moving, but it no longer grips you. The signals that once drained your focus now pass through without distortion. Your field hums like a living circuit, precise, luminous, grounded. You feel your body as a conductor of truth, not a vessel for fear, not a target for manipulation, but a generator of pure command. This is what it means to reclaim human energy. To stop feeding the grid and start running your own current. Every breath becomes a voltage adjustment. Every emotion becomes a directional pulse. Every thought becomes electrical architecture sculpting reality in real time. The science was never hidden, only the awareness of it was. The ex-scientist who broke silence wasn't revealing conspiracy. He was describing the forgotten operating manual of the human system, how frequency equals fate, how emotion shapes magnetism, how coherence redefines freedom. The world won't suddenly transform, but your signal will. And when one person holds frequency with absolute clarity, the environment begins to rewrite itself in response. That's the true revolution, not rebellion, but resonance. You'll know you've reached it when your presence starts rearranging situations without effort. When people calm around you. When technology glitches near you during high charge states. When silence feels like power instead of absence. That's the body remembering its original function. The command node of reality's circuit. You were never powerless. You were broadcasting on borrowed code. Now you know how to rewrite it. Have you ever felt your energy ripple through a space where everyone seemed to shift just because you walked in? Describe that moment. The world deserves to remember how it feels when a human field takes command again.